Hello, hello, hello. Today we're going to go over the warrior changes. We got some nice little buffs for awakening, and then succession got some changes as well. I'm not really going to talk too much about succession because there wasn't there's not enough there for me to just make a whole video on. It's kind of whatever. And plus Mercule made a better video that I think he explains the buffs and the situations that you can find some use and the problems with some of them. So I'll go ahead and put his video somewhere either in the description or a pinned comment, and you guys can check that out if you want to. Now, as for awakening though, we got some pretty juicy buffs. Okay, so we're gonna start with the passives because we did have a burning moxie change. So how this is gonna work now is it's no longer an input and now it is a passive. So whenever you're around 1 to 6 enemies, you will gain a percentage amount of attack and movement speed, and then you will also get 20 to 30 to 40 extra DP for 10 seconds. And this is based on like just being near enemies. So for example, right, this is considered an enemy, and if I use an ability, let's say I'll use like Merciless or whatever, you'll see I gain attack speed and movement speed, and my DP buff will go up. The percentage will be based on the radius of how many enemies are around me. So at the moment, I don't think the radius is very large, but it'll only register pretty much one of these buffs right here. So I will only be getting probably the first set of buffs, which is going to be 10% attack speed and only 20 DP. And one thing to note about this is that it does not stack with your block buff. So if you use like any kind of ability and then you block, it doesn't stack. It just resets the buff. That's all it does. So it's not going to, you're not going to be able to stack the 20 DP from blocking into your burning moxie passive. That's not going to happen. So it's kind of whatever. I think this change is very good. It makes the burning moxie before was just you tap LTA to get some movement speed, and a lot of warriors are going to kind of have to break that habit now that that's not a thing, and that's going to be probably something just to get used to from a muscle memory like standpoint. But this is infinitely better because we can reach really high DP with this passive. I mean, 40 DP is a lot, not to mention you factor in add-ons and full buffs and everything. Like you can get up pretty high, which is nice. Overall, burning moxie is pretty good. I don't think this is a bad change. Some warriors were a little worried about it, but I don't think it was anything to worry about. The movement speed's whatever, and I mean we get it anyway just from being around enemies, and we use one ability and we have movement speed, so it really is not that big of a deal. Now, if we scroll all the way down here to meditation, this was also changed. So this now is the burning moxie like input. So it's LT plus A or whatever the conversion is for PlayStation. And this will give you some HP recovery and your resource recovery, which is pretty cool. Now, a lot of people had this locked for a while. I know I did because I just didn't want to press it by accident or just have this even unlocked at all. So now it's unlocked and you can use this from awakening as well. So if you need a quick heal, you can just pop this and you can gain 500 HP, which is kind of good. It's not an amazing heal by any degree and it's not going to save you, but it's better than nothing. As for the other change that we got a ankle break change. So now this has a forward guard and we lost the bound on it, which is fine. That's completely fine. If I had to choose between the bound and the forward guard, I would take the forward guard all day because more protections is always going to be the better option in that scenario. The bound was such a niche scenario and it realistically was only going to be good for 1v1s. You can kind of get a little cheeky with it in large scale, but it was very situational and specific. So I wouldn't necessarily, shed a tear over the bound. It was cool and I was just starting to get used to using it, but it's not that crazy. And the forward guard is much more efficient because we can use it to guarantee our crit buff. So we use ankle break and that gives us 100% critical hit rate, and then that ties over to pulverize and tempest, which don't have any crit at all. So as long as we pre-buff with ankle break, we can make pulverize and tempest hit harder because of the 100% guaranteed crit. So this move is less risky now, and we can kind of angle it to where we're going to be a little bit protected. They can still get around our forward guards, but I mean, like I said, just protections are better than no protection, so might as well. I know a lot of warriors were kind of looking for a reckless blow, and honestly, I kind of was too. I really do think that reckless blow needs to be full super armor, but if you're not going to give us that, then this is a decent alternative. So I don't know, like reckless blow I feel like should be a core. Like because right now the cores, in my opinion, I don't know what it is about these cores right now, but I just feel like they're so weird for large scale. Like he does not have a very good large scale core, and the one that I've come to like as of recent times for this update is Pulverize, and I'll talk about why in a second. But like Merciless is okay. This is like if you're diving in and you want to like have better protected damage, and you can kind of like do your full combo and then just throw Merciless because it's forward guard and it's a bound and it's a float, so you can kind of do some stuff with this, but it's not that crazy, and it's mainly like to guarantee DPS, so that way you're not using unprotected abilities in some kind of damage drop combo in large scale. Grave digging is pretty good. This is probably the one that I would choose if I wasn't using Pulverize because of the 360 bound. My only issue with this one is that it's on the last hit, so it's like you have to let the animation ride out, and in some cases that may be more dangerous than anything else, so it's not exactly the smartest thing to do like randomly. But like if you need to like group CC somebody, this could be the option that, you know, handles most things. Frenzied Strikes, this is just a PvE core. Nobody uses this in large scale. This is a very niche. You have to be a particular player to use this, and I've yet to meet one that likes Frenzied Strikes because it's just it's too stationary. Animation is too long. The damage is cool, but nobody's gonna stand still and let you hit that, so it's just not really a very good core for PvP specifically. Solar Flare is pretty cool if you want to dive in a lot and you're doing a lot of movement and you want to make sure your movement is protected. 9 times out of 10 I'm usually positioning pretty well, so this doesn't like, I don't see a need for this. I rarely get CC'd out of Solar Flare because I do it incredibly fast, and I usually position it where like it's gonna less likely to get me CC'd. So I found this core to be kind of useless. There are still times I pick this core, but the only time I ever really do it is if I feel like I'm just getting CC'd left and right in my movement, and a player's picked up on my movement pattern and I need to protect myself so that way I can move a bit more efficiently instead of getting caught in the movement. So this is the only time I will ever switch to Solar Flare, but most of the time I'm almost never running this. As for Balance Strike, this is just a worse Solar Flare. Never run Balance Strike. It's cool for like 1v1 stuff if you want to kind of get cheeky with grabs and whatnot and guarantee them off of the forward guard, but outside of 1v1s I don't see this as very useful at all because it's a mobile forward guard, so you can move forward and then have that, you know, frontal guard, and that'll help you be able to kind of secure and mitigate damage. And you can also cancel it in a few different ways. So you could do balance, overwhelm, and then you could do balance, grab, and then you just block cancel all the things, so that way you cancel the animations. So Balance Strike can be really cool for a lot of 1v1 niche stuff and like engages, but outside of that it's not that great. Now for the reason I use Pulverize is because it's a knockdown and it's forward guard, and now our Pulverize in Tempest has been updated to where it flows into grave digging much faster. So if we take a look here, I will go ahead and do back RB, and then you just hold LT RB and you will immediately go into a grave digging. So Tempest, and you see how fast that was? It comes out incredibly quick. It's super quick. So what I've been doing a lot is I'll dive a ball, and instead of using like overwhelm, block cancel, grave digging, so I would do something like I'm diving in right and do something like this. That's what I used to do, and I still do that from time to time, but it's not like my go-to anymore. So instead of doing that, I changed from grave digging to Pulv Tempest, and then I go into grave dig slashing. So I'll do something like this. Something like that. So I can get a lot more efficient damage off, and it feels really good. Like it comes out so quickly that you don't have to really like follow through with much. Like you just need to drop your kit pretty much. So after you do Pulv Tempest, grave, slashing, it's just kind of whatever you want to do. If you need kind of bonus damage, or maybe you want to go for the down smash, you could do ankle break. There's another option too as well. So you could do overwhelm, block cancel, ankle, Pulv Tempest. So you could do this. So that way you can guarantee damage. If you want to like get the 100% critical hit rate, that's an option as well. I don't actually think you need this a whole lot, if I'm being honest with you, now that grave digging flows faster. Ankle break is cool, and it's got a forward guard, which is cool, but I just don't think you need it right now, because the damage off of Pulv Tempest grave slashing that damage comes out damn like so damn fast, and it does a lot of damage. Like it hurts a lot. So if you get lucky and you CC somebody with the overwhelm and then you block cancel Pulse Tempest, that's going to be a lot of damage. So you could boom boom and it's a knockdown, down smash, and then you can do whatever you want. And then don't forget you have reckless too. That's also an option. You can do that as well. So there's a bunch of different things you can do. But right now for my damage drop and CC options, I've been using core pulv just a shit ton. I think it's really, really good, and it's overall like my go-to core right now, and it's been really successful. If you guys want to see some of that like in action, I pretty much I think I did a 6-hour stream the other day, and you guys can check that out when I was playing warrior, and I got some pretty nice CCs off of it and some good damage drops. So you can get some ideas on how to actually use it in a fight, so that way maybe a lot of people aren't as comfortable using pulverize, because it was one of the more niche cores. Nobody really ran pulverize. In fact, I don't actually know any warrior that runs it. I think Snow runs it every now and then for like Solaire, but I'm not sure if he does it for open world too, or how often he relies on it for open world. But I've come to really like it, and I think it's a great core right now because of the animation changes between pulverize and Tempest. Being able to just flow into grave digging that quickly is just like, that's tops. Like that's so good, and it's really, really hard to like not do that. And even then you could do like very long CC change. So you could do something like this where you go like that, and then you could go directly into reckless afterward if you really wanted to. You don't even have to do overwhelm. You could actually just do reckless, and then you have 2 back-to-back KDs. So you go 1 damage drop, something like that, whatever. You know, I'm not saying like that's the go-to damage, but you could do something like that where you just have them on the floor for so long, because you got to remember KDs, the knockdowns, are the longest form of CCs in the game. So if you knock somebody down, they are going to be down for literally forever. And then if you have another one, you just chain that on top of them, and then you guys can just keep re-CCing them over and over and over again. So boom, damage drop there, bam. See that? They're just on the floor forever. Like they're so long. And I guess before I forget, which that just reminded me, grave digging now flows faster out of reckless too. So you could throw reckless and then hold the grave digging input, and you can immediately go into grave digging. And that's a really good one, because the issue that we were having with reckless blow is that at the end of the animation we are completely unprotected. It's not like Grim Reaper's Judgment where you have a core and you can what do you call it, core the skill, and it'll have the entire animation super armored. So reckless doesn't have that. So we're super armored for the first half, but once we let it rip, we have no super armor at all. So what this change does for being able to flow into grave digging quicker is that it allows that gap to be a little bit smaller, so that way we're not actually, you know, gonna get floored from grave, like just reckless in general, because that's the number one thing that kills warriors. Is like warriors, they'll like, you know, they go in right, and they're just gonna like, oh, I'm gonna dive in or whatever. And like before, it was very hard to flow into safe skills. Usually most warriors, what they did was they would hold the RT button, which is like your little auto attack, and as you're holding it after reckless, you can use it to cancel into overwhelm and a few other abilities. So you would essentially hold this, and then you would do overwhelm, and then you would block cancel, grave digging, or whatever you feel like doing. Could be slashing, whatever you want to do. That's how warriors were speeding up the animation. But this is far better, and honestly, like, I'm glad that they at least gave it somewhat of an updated like animation, because flowing into grave digging feels really good, and you just like, you have that gap is still there, and you still can very well get hit out of it. By no means is that going to be a, you know, a safe thing to do, but it's just like, it's better now, so the chances of you getting hit are a little bit harder. And you see how fast that is? Like, that comes out. That was really quick. That was super quick. So Like it's pretty good. It's not the full SA reckless that we're looking for, but it's close enough. Like I'm not mad at it. It's close enough. And like I said, warrior doesn't have to be like this S tier class and everything. I think where he's at right now is totally fine. I think he fits a role in large scale. I think that he is good at attacking cannons and harassing flags. I think he's very good at those things, and he can kind of be good at harassing a base as a flex member. But when it comes to ball warrior, he's really just not that good in ball on awakening. It's very difficult to frag out on an awakening warrior. Very few warriors in the game can actually get over 50 kills in an actual siege that goes on for 2 hours. It's very difficult for a warrior to do that, because he would have to basically be foreheading into like just enemies all the time and trying to 50 slashing them down, and he'd just spend more time at the respawn screen than actually killing people. The problem with warrior large scale is he doesn't have a lot of burst damage, in the sense of like he can't like one shot people, and he also doesn't have sustain either. So when I say he doesn't have sustain, yes, he does have a heal off of pulverized tempest, but it doesn't heal us enough to keep us alive in a ball. And once it's on cooldown, we have literally next to nothing except for just press LTA for a 20-second cooldown that heals us for 500. That's nothing. So it's like we just don't have a lot of stamina, or not stamina, but like HP to stay within a fight long enough, because once our heals are down, it's like that's it, we just die from there. So even if you dive in, it's just like we have 4 skills, right? You have reckless, okay, and then you have grave digging, you have slashing, you have pulverized tempest, and then you have merciless, which is unprotected. And those are like your biggest damaging skills, and they're okay. And merciless is unprotected, so you got to be careful with that. But for the most part, your biggest damage is going to be pulverized tempest, grave digging, slashing. So almost every single time you engage in how you're going to do a large scale combo, at least for me, it's always going to be this, and then just go immediately into ground smash. So you do pulverized tempest into grave digging, slashing, and then you hit ground smash. And you can engage in however way you feel necessary. For me, most of the time is I'll try and get a cheeky flank, and then I will go for the overwhelm and then do the combo from there. So I'll do something like this, and then just usually get out. That's usually how I would do my engage, and just try and keep my opponent on the floor as long as physically possible with the knockdown on pulverize. That's how I would function that. And if you're wondering about like just 1v1 combos, I mean, like it's kind of the same thing. Like you're not really going to do anything super crazy. Like you're doing the exact same thing. The only difference is like I said, the animations are sped up, so there's not really a change in the combo per se. It's still basically the same thing. It's not like nothing really changed about the core values of the warrior at the moment. He just got a little bit tankier, and he got a little bit faster with his animations. I'd like to also just note that this is not the update where warrior becomes meta. I know a lot of people are like, oh my god, warrior is going to be broken in large scale. No, the fuck he's not. No, he's not. Nobody's going to play this thing. This is not going to outfrag an archer. It's not going to outfrag a drac. This is not that class. Like these changes just help him in the areas that he was already good at. That's like the biggest thing, is he's like, his large scale is still going to be kind of whatever, because he doesn't have burst damage and he doesn't have a lot of great heals, so he can't stay in a ball and frag out. So he's relegated to a disruptor. He's like anything involving harassment or disruption or taking out small targets that he can 1v2 a little bit. Those are sort of the situations that fit warrior the best, and that hasn't changed. He can't sit in a ball. He's not going to do well in a ball setting. You're going to want to put him in a deflex, maybe flex role, possibly defense. Anything that's involved in roaming around and harassing enemy annexes, that's pretty much going to be his best role. If you try these changes in the ball, he might perform a little bit better, but by no means are you going to be first page. Like it's just not possible. If you're fighting real guilds and real people with skill and gear, that you're not going to be anywhere near first page. It's going to be very difficult to get up there. So like for those of you that are worried that he might be super broken or now he's going to be crazy in large scale, no, you're still never going to see warriors in large scale. You still have to be pretty good on the class. You have to have at least a few months and understand the cancels. Like there's still a skill ceiling there. It's not going to be a thing that you can just pick up overnight and then start performing incredibly well on. That's it for today's video. If I missed anything, please leave it down below. I kind of was just talking about the stuff that impacted my gameplay the most, but for for the most part. I think I covered just about everything. I might have missed a few things, but like I said, please let me know. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.